So another week, another Chainsaw Man chapter to toy with our emotions. Pretty standard at this point. To be completely honest, you never really know what to expect. One week we're doing this, the next we're getting absolutely emotionally devastated. Following after that, this massive reveal and escalation into story development and character understanding. And then here we are now, this chapter, which for me was extremely unsettling. I can't necessarily put my finger on why, but everything about this chapter for me just felt uneasy, even a little bit sickening. There's nothing in it that necessarily makes it that, but I feel like with the prior context, the situation we just come off, the understanding of Makima a little bit deeper, the understanding of Denji, the hero of hell, Chainsaw Man, there's just so many different things that we're conflicting with right now. Our emotions are conflicting with prior events, and we as readers really don't know how to feel. So to get a chapter like this, after everything we've just experienced, the roller coaster of emotions and mental gymnastics, was very odd. Not in a bad way. I actually really enjoyed the chapter, but for me, very unsettling. And I'm not sure if anyone else got that same feeling or something similar to it. It just felt sickening, maybe just because of the emotion that was surrounding everything. The tension, the build-up. It felt like it was one step away from innocent people getting absolutely obliterated. And I say that very slightly because innocent people did get obliterated within this chapter, but more so in the sense of a lot more casualties, a lot more innocent people involved. We're kind of one step away from that. So I felt like maybe that was a big reason, or at least a bit of a fuel for the fire, in a sense that I was someone expecting it to go down that route of mass destruction and uncontrollable desires. Also, if you end up liking this video, consider subscribing. I'd greatly appreciate it. But the past couple of months for Chainsaw Man has been quite a wild ride, not only for us as readers, but for new people getting into the story, experiencing everything that we've just witnessed, and the popularity drastically increasing, which is incredible to see. A lot more people are talking about it, a lot more people are giving it a chance and diving into it, and finally digesting such a chaotic story. I am extremely happy to see it so well received on Twitter, on YouTube, so many different content creators talking about it, even starting to talk about it, which just spreads the awareness even further. You could watch 6 or 7 different videos from different people on the exact same chapter, yet the perspective, the understanding, the knowledge is going to be entirely different. How they break down that chapter, how they perceive this event or this emotion or this character, this reveal, which Chainsaw Man has a lot of opportunities to be perceived entirely different through different lenses. In that sense, I absolutely love it. I think this chapter is a prime example of perspective being utilized and how people will see it entirely differently based on their emotional response to it, their understanding of the story, and a lot of these characters. For me, this chapter was unsettling. There was something about it that felt extremely off, and I mentioned prior a couple of those different things that I would assume was the reasoning for it that was fueling that type of mindset, that type of emotion, but I can't put my thumb on it 100%, especially with how the beginning of the chapter and then the remaining of the chapter is almost entirely different from one another in a sense of its atmosphere, in the tone that is trying to produce. You start off the chapter very calmly but seriously, and the first thing that I was drawn to is Makima's expression. I'm not entirely sure what the reflection on her blade was meant to represent, if she was kind of smiling or happy that she was about to be obliterated, or if she was scared or uneasy about the situation, which obviously doesn't necessarily fit with her character. An emotion like being uneasy or even scared is something we haven't seen from her, so I don't know if that was some of her true emotions towards Chainsaw Man somewhat starting to seep out because of the events that happened right after it that she was expecting and anticipating, or if it was something else entirely. It's somewhat hard to tell just because of how her face is framed within that reflection, but that in itself felt very isolated, felt very cold and somewhat saddening to a degree. Even though she told Kishibe that she was going to fight him when he comes for her, something about it didn't necessarily feel genuine. It's almost like she felt scared or maybe just uneasy about the situation in general, even though she's technically immortal to a degree, or a different variation of being immortal. Something about it just felt off, and she does indeed get absolutely obliterated. She didn't even put up a fight. He doesn't touch Kishibe or anything along those lines, just Makima. Honestly, quite a simple opening, but one that was impactful and one filled with a lot of tension and even somewhat of understanding Makima a little bit better, how she feels about things, how she emotionally copes with these situations. She puts up such a strong front as a character, and she's so twisted, malicious, manipulative, but seeing her in this light, being so vulnerable, being so dominated and completely eviscerated in seconds, definitely shines her in a new light. Even more so after everything we've seen from her throughout the narrative. It also sets a really good pillar for the remaining of the chapter and something that you can draw back to, and how this opening bit completely conflicts, contrasts so weirdly with the remainder of the chapter. So we actually see Kobeni. I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce her name, but she actually quit quite a while ago. Now she's working in a restaurant, and the way she's treated within that restaurant is wholeheartedly sickening. There's always something with her character where she is very emotionally uneasy. She expresses things very outwardly. You can basically read every emotion she has on her face. She struggles with anxiety. She gets extremely nervous. So she's a very expressionable character, and it's something that I've always loved about her character. And honestly, I didn't think we'd actually get to see her, especially in this context or this frame. But seeing her being treated just made me feel sick for some reason, especially because it had this sense of not only obviously harassment, also this like malicious intent that they might have done something later on, to the point where she has to verbally say, "Someone help me," and this is what leads Chainsaw Man into her direction. She wasn't calling out for Chainsaw Man, she was just asking for help under her breath. Obviously, this leads to an extremely odd encounter within this diner or fast food joint. Chainsaw Man rolls through, he kills a couple of innocent civilians, and then pretty much demands for a burger. And we reflect on that time Denji was telling Pochita how he wished he could eat a really nice burger, and that is the reasoning why he sits down and somewhat acts rather subdued compared to what we've seen previously, even though he's screeching and trying to speak and ask for a hamburger. And then Kobeni is the one to bring the meal towards him, and they play on this very quirky and humorous thing where she trips with the whole tray of meal and food and just splatters all over him. She does this twice, by the way, and everyone's just completely soul struck. They just witnessed two people get absolutely slaughtered by Chainsaw Man, and now they're trying to serve him the food. And with Kobeni being this very emotional, anxiety driven type person that's very expressionable, she shows it very heavily. You just can't help but feel sorry for her. She gets very nervous, so she trips over herself, and it's the reason why each time she brings a meal to him, she trips over and throws it on top of him basically, and everyone's just like, we're dead. We're about to be absolutely destroyed because of making this person extremely mad. And that is pretty much the whole chapter. We end off with everyone just gobsmacked that she managed to trip over twice trying to deliver this meal, and they think they're all gonna die. There's a couple of things here that I think is really polarizing. One, the fact that there's humor inlaid into this, while the situation itself is very sick and twisted, has this very odd sense of different emotions connected to it. I'm honestly not too sure how to feel. Are you meant to laugh at the situation, or are you meant to be scared? Are you meant to be shocked? There's so many different things that makes this chapter uneasy, and using Kobeni as like the driving force for it with how nervous and anxious she truly gets was such an intelligent thing to do. I don't think you could pull off such a conflicting and polarizing style of a chapter with anyone else. It would have to be her. She handles and spearheads the emotion, but you can't help but feel bad for her. And the second thing is that Denji himself is weirdly subdued, or at least he's very tame. And I guess in that sense, if you want to make a connection to symbolism, it's very dog-like. He sees food, he's kind of barking orders, but he's still waiting patiently for it. He's not necessarily aggressive about it. He's not taking the burger or anything like that. So it shows a bit of humanity, or a bit of Denji peering through that Chainsaw Man armor, which goes an extremely long way. When you have that small little flashback of Denji remembering the time he wanted to eat a burger, you reconnect Denji to Chainsaw Man, and he starts to become obviously a lot more human-like and not necessarily emotional, but open, not as scary, even though he still has such a menacing presence about him. I'm not entirely sure where we go from here, but I absolutely love this chapter. I thought it was amazing, rather unique, and just very conflicting. It made me feel unsettled, uneasy, even somewhat sick, but not in a sense of dread or things that were happening to these people. It was more so just the emotion and the tension that was within the air. Opening up with the Makima situation, spearheading the rest of the chapter with Kobeni and how anxious she truly gets, and and just everything surrounding that just felt so odd in all the right ways. It was bizarre, to put simply. Hopefully we're lucky enough to get a little bit more with Denji, or a little bit more with the Chainsaw Man situation, and how that's going to revert him back to normal. Maybe this bite out of a burger will revert him back to normal. I wouldn't be surprised at this point. We may get some more memories, some more stuff with Pochita, which is really nice. It starts to humanize Chainsaw Man a little bit more, at least the perspective of Chainsaw Man, the hero of hell, whatever you want to call him. I'm excited to see where we go from here. But with that being said, I would absolutely love to know how you felt about this chapter. How did it make you feel? Did you feel sick? Did you laugh at some of this stuff? All over the place mentally, not really sure how to feel because that's how the chapter somewhat framed and portrayed itself? Please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Drink plenty of water, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.